Hey guys, it's Lance at Mac Sound Solutions, and don't do this at home, folks. Don't do it. But you know me, I love to tinker, and I have my Mac Pro 2019 7,1 with an RX 6900 XT in it, but that's not good enough. I want more GPU power, and the folks over at Nimbus Cybertech sent over a RX 7900 XTX. ChatGPT said it was going to fit.
And now just a quick drop from our sponsor.
Greetings. This Sapphire 7900 XTX 24GB Pulse Edition is my offering to your community. We come in peace. Nimbus Cybertech is a growing cyber hardware megacorp operating within Earth's hash horizon. Please enjoy the Nimbus #1 build video experience and find the others. Peace.
Click the link above to check out Nimbus Cybertech's AMD build. It's pretty sweet. Now back to the video. Well, ChatGPT was off by about 9 millimeters, 0.35 inches. The maximum length GPU that can fit in a Mac Pro is 304 millimeters, and the Sapphire Pulse is 313 millimeters. While I did get it to fit, and that's why I don't recommend this, it is slightly warping my fan cage. And even though the fans are still working, I had to remove the fan cage just to get it in. And then when I put it back in, it was extremely tight, and it is bending it slightly. So I can't recommend this. What you can do is get the RX 9700 XTX reference model. You might find one on eBay. I don't know. They seem to be hard to come by. But I thought I'd give this a try, and as you can see behind me, I got it working. And it did take quite a bit of finagling and a couple of hours because I had to figure out how to get the fan cage out. And thanks to Snazzy Labs for actually showing where the screws are, because ChatGPT couldn't seem to figure that out either. Bad chat. But, you know, I do use ChatGPT to reference stuff and get a little information, and it's not always right. In fact, it's wrong, I'd say about half of the time with the tech stuff. I think it's just learning what I know. It's sucking out all my knowledge is what it's doing. So let's take a look. And a shout out to my buddy Michael Dockel, who put an RTX 5090 in his Mac Pro. He helped me kind of suss out the cables I needed to power this baby. And here you're looking at his power setup for the RTX 5090, which he is also running alongside an RX 6900 XT. And Michael got a great price on his, and I would definitely do this, but it's just they're so expensive. They're like overpriced by $500–600 just to get the Founders model. And the Founders model fits perfectly in the Mac Pro and only takes up 2 slots. Maybe one day if the prices ever come down. The Mac Pro has 4 8-pin connectors on the logic board, and my card, the RX 7900 XTX, has 3 8-pin connectors. So the way I have this set up, I've got the RX 6900 XT is getting 1 8-pin, and it's also getting a 6-pin converted to an 8-pin. And that 6-pin port can provide up to 150 watts. So it's been working fine, no issues with power. And while both GPUs are seen by Windows 11, and I can select the RX 7900 XT to be the primary, in macOS, it only sees it as like a generic VGA compatible controller. And just to be clear, it does not work in macOS. It only works in Windows. And it can work in Linux. So the RX 6900 XT is my macOS GPU, and I originally wanted to do this with Linux. I installed Bazzite, and unfortunately I could not get the fans working on the RX 7900 XT. Everything else worked, video acceleration, it was working, but I could not get the fans running. So if anybody has any tips on that, and it was such an easy install, and I'm pretty sure I was up to date as far as the latest version of Bazzite, and the driver is in there because it was working. I ran one benchmark in Cyberpunk and the thing was cooking. And it started with a great frame rate, and then it totally tanked very quickly. And I dug around and I could not get the fans working. So I had to switch over to the dark side to Windows 11. Here's some Cyberpunk benchmarks. Here we are at 1440, native resolution, no upscaling, no frame generation. And we're at 116 frames per second. And at native 4K, we're an average FPS of 61.12. And now we're in ultra settings with FSR on, FSR 2.1, and we're getting 70 frames per second. No frame generation. And here's FSR in quality mode, and we're getting 80 frames per second. So I threw on frame gen and put us in performance mode, and now we're getting 194 frames per second. Now I've turned on ray tracing and ray tracing lighting to ultra and gone with all the bells and whistles in quality mode and frame generation. And we're getting 71 frames per second. Pretty darn good. And with the RX 6900 XT and macOS at 4K, we're getting 78 frames per second, which is not bad. While the M2 Ultra gets 61 frames per second, I would go with 1440p gaming with the M2 Ultra because it's going to utilize that faster CPU. And here is the RX 7900 XTX with Shadow of a Tomb Raider benchmark at 4K with the highest settings. We just don't have ray tracing turned on yet, and we're getting a whopping 133 FPS. And you can see, and a lot of people will say, why would you bother putting that GPU into your Mac Pro 7,1? The reality is when you're gaming in 4K, you are going to be loading up that GPU. You're not going to be throttling your CPU. If you're gaming at 1080 or 1440, then the CPU will potentially start to throttle and it won't be able to feed the frames fast enough to the GPU. In Cinebench, both GPUs are recognized and used in the test. So at the top there, you see I got a whopping 24,387, which is actually a higher score than the M3 Ultra. But the RX 7900 XTX on its own scored 14,695. So it gets beaten by the M3 Ultra and the M2 Ultra. But I really got the card for gaming, not for rendering. And of course, in DaVinci Resolve, you can also use both of the GPUs. And while it won't perform as well as a matched pair, it will still get a boost from using the RX 6900 XT as well. And here's the Geekbench Vulkan score with the RX 7900 XTX, beating out the M2 Ultra, although it's Vulkan versus metal. So I'm pretty happy with this build, and the gaming performance is pretty darn good for a 2019 Mac Pro. And even though the CPUs are slower at 4K gaming, I'm getting about the same frame rates as anybody else out there using an RX 7900 XTX. So I might be getting a few frames per second less, but I am totally in the ballpark with a 2019 Mac Pro. And it's a real shame that Apple didn't install drivers in macOS for people to be able to upgrade these computers. It's pretty outrageous when you think about what people originally spent to buy these things in 2019. I mean, the least they could do is throw a bone and throw the drivers in there. But no, they moved on to Apple Silicon and killed off dedicated GPUs. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Please give me that thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and, check out Nimbus Cybertech. They've got GPUs, they've got SSDs, they've got cables. It's a cool site with some great stuff. And thanks to them again for sponsoring the video, and I'll see you on the next Mac Sound Solutions video.
Peace.